Welcome back to the Anger Man Podcast with Jason and Greg. So, Jay, after this weekend's successful defense of his undisputed 168-pound title by Canelo Alvarez, Turkey Al-Sheikh says he has interest in making a fight between Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford. Now, I've always wondered why he has no interest in making that fight between Canelo Alvarez and David Benavidez, because personally, I've always felt that that was the fight that fans wanted to see. I thought it was the fight that resonated with the Mexican American community and the Mexican community. So I thought that that was the biggest fight in boxing, but he is fixated on a fight between Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford. Now, Terence Crawford supposedly was going for undisputed at 154 pounds. Seems like he's trying to change course. I don't know if it was because of how Canelo Alvarez looked this past weekend or what. I did see somewhere where Crawford said he looked slower. He's slowing down. So I think Crawford believes now that he has an opportunity to win that fight, the measurables, if you will, and the decline of Canelo Alvarez. I've always felt that this fight wasn't as big as people were trying to make it out to be. You don't really see a whole lot of fanfare for the fight outside of individuals who are Terence Crawford fans and Terence Crawford. So the interest has been drummed up by Crawford and his team, and then of course his fans who generally don't even buy pay-per-views are saying that this is the biggest fight in the sport. Now I was gonna push back on that, but I have been thinking about it, and honestly, I'm gonna withhold judgment in terms of whether or not this is a big fight, because maybe it is, Jay. Maybe I'm just missing something. And what I want to do though is see how Terence Crawford's card performs on August 3rd, because in reality, that card is so stacked that it should easily do over 1 million pay-per-view buys. I mean, honestly, we have people that are calling it the best pay-per-view card or the best card in North American history. And I'm not going to argue whether it is or it isn't. I don't know. But if it's truly the best card in North American history, then we've seen cards in North America do 4 million pay-per-view buys with not even half the talent on the card, right? Floyd comes to mind. Floyd versus Manny comes to mind. We just saw Tank versus Ryan do 1.3. So if you're telling me that Crawford is a huge draw, or that he's popular, and that Canelo versus Terence Crawford is the biggest fight in the sport currently, then it should easily be able to surpass that Ryan Garcia versus Gervonta Davis fight, period. Like, they did 1.2, then I'm saying that this card should do 1.5. And if it reaches that 1.5 mark, then I would say yes, there's demand for this fight, and Turkey Al-Sheikh should push forward with trying to make this fight. But honestly, that card should be able to do more than 1.5 because of all the names that we have on that card. Former heavyweight champions. You got an excellent fight at 154 between Virgil Ortiz and Tim Tszyu. You got Terence Crawford, who they're saying is a big name on the main card. So 1.5 million buys is where I'm targeting that card to do. And if it does that, then by all means, let's make that fight. I will support that fight. I will advocate for that fight on this card, because you always want to advocate for big fights regardless. And if it's a big fight and Terence Crawford has created a name for himself that allows him to sell 1.5 million pay-per-view buys, then he should get that fight. And I will advocate for that fight wholeheartedly. If that card doesn't do that, and I know that the Ryan Garcia versus Devin Haney card did not sell well. You guys have not heard anybody talking about that card in the pay-per-view numbers. Nowhere. There's a reason for that, because it didn't do anywhere near. If it had done even 700,000 buys, it would have been leaked somewhere, because 700,000 buys would make it one of the top pay-per-view cards in boxing over the last 2 years. I think the only other ones I can think of are like Triple G versus Canelo 3, Arrow versus Terrence, and Ryan versus Tank. So those are some of the bigger cards. So you would have seen that. If this Turkey Al-Sheikh card, which I think is on pay-per-view, I'm pretty sure it's on pay-per-view.
Yeah, for
because all of
sure.
it, because all the other ones were. If it doesn't do the 1.5, you don't hear about it. Any pay per view numbers, it didn't do anywhere near it, and I won't advocate for the fight because I don't believe there's a reason for it. So Jay, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, number one, saying whether this fight is or isn't the best possible fight later on this year, is not saying Terence Crawford is not pound for pound. Number one,
Right,
they
he
can't
is.
understand. Some fans, some Bud fans fail to realize that you can say that and still say Bud is still the number one pound for pound fighter.
He is.
He's just not. He's not the face of boxing. He's not the draw like that. So both of those things can be true. Now, as far as saying, oh, Bud versus Canelo is the biggest fight in boxing. When Canelo beat Jaime Munguia, let me ask you this, Greg. When Canelo beat Jaime Munguia, they asked him who did they ask him about? What fight? What fighter? Was it Bud? No, it
It's
was
Benavidez.
Benavidez, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's been asked that question over and over again. Almost every interview he does that comes up. It doesn't come up about Bud. So therefore, that tells me the people want to see Benavidez and Canelo, not Benavidez and Bud. That'd be like a consolation prize. So don't say that's the biggest fight when we know the biggest fight for Canelo is Benavidez. Let's be real with that. Now, with Benavidez going to 175, he said he could come back down for 168 only for Canelo. And Canelo being like, oh, now I don't want that fight. I need 200 million. I don't know if this fight going to happen either. I'm kind of disturbed by Turkey pushing this fight, and then also pushing had let David say, oh, you can fight Bud, but you got to fight Bud at 160. I'm like, what is it about David Benavidez and Canelo that's not happening, or David Benavidez and even Bud Crawford not happening at 168? Those should be the fights that we talking about, not 160 for Benavidez versus Crawford, or forgetting about Benavidez and Canelo and saying Bud versus Canelo. So I mean, if Benavidez is completely out of the picture, move how y'all want to move, but don't act like that's going to be the biggest fight at 168 that could be made. That ain't it. Turkey, if you want the biggest fight at 168, put the money up like you say you can, and can be done, and make it Canelo versus Benavidez. That's what you should do. Now, fans gonna be like, oh well, you're hating on Bud. I'm not hating on Bud. I just want to see the best fight at 168, which is Canelo and Benavidez, not Canelo and Crawford. That's a consolation prize. We'll watch it, and to your point, if Crawford sells big on August 3rd, then that can help make him a better draw. But it's a lot of names on that card as well to help that card sell. It's not just like Crawford, one name, and then a bunch of contenders or prospects. That's not it. They put a lot of names on there, not necessarily the best matchups on that card, but a lot of names on there. The best fight on that card is freaking Virgil Ortiz and Tim Tszyu. That's the main event card. Honestly, that's the best fight on there. And then you can say Pitbull versus Rayo is a good fight. The other ones are pretty much overmatched. The names on there are great, but they're overmatched. So this card here on August 3rd, we'll see what it does. 1.5. That's what they're clamoring for. We know the numbers, like you said earlier. We know the numbers from Ryan and Devin hasn't come out yet. So we'll see what this does on August 3rd. How they keep pushing it, and if they keep putting more people on this doggone card, the card going to start on freaking August 2nd instead of August 3rd. You can't have that many fighters on the card for it to start at a timely fashion on there. Of course, us people that love boxing and know most of the names on that card, we'll be watching from the very beginning. But we'll see. It's gonna be smoke and mirrors. Also, you can't give but all the credit for this card just if it does well, and you can't give them all the bad negative press if it doesn't do well as well. So we'll see August 3rd. But the best fight at 168 has always been Dave Benavidez versus Canelo, not Canelo versus Bud.
If it doesn't do well, I'm giving him all the blame because he's top billing. It is what it is. He's going to push the card over the top, so he's top billing. I'm not trying to hate on him, man,
His
at
fans
all,
deserve
but
that.
he's top billing. If he's top billing, then he has to get the blame for it if it doesn't sell. You guys tell us what you think in the comment section. Don't forget to hate, like, comment, and subscribe. This is the Angry Man Podcast, AM Sports Media, and we are out.